Okay, at least by my computer, it says 6 o'clock. We're usually very good with our working group meetings of starting on time, and so we'll continue that trend today. So welcome to all of our working group members. Welcome to all the members of the public who have joined us. As a reminder, these 5 points transportation study working group meetings are open to the public, but they really are designed for the working group members. And therefore, the presentations, the Q&A, the discussion will take place amongst the working group members and the project team. We certainly are glad that members of the public join us each time. It's an important part of our process to have the public with us. We do allot time at the end of the meeting for any public comment. I'll say this again in a few minutes, but if you are interested at any point in the meeting of indicating that you would like to make a public comment at the end, what I would ask you to do is to go to the chat function on the virtual meeting setting and just send a chat to us saying what your name is and that I would like to make a comment. We will keep you in order. We will compile that. And then when it is time for public comment, we will go one by one. We will unmute you. We have the ability to do that to the attendees. We can unmute you. You will come in, give your brief comment. We will then mute you and go back to the next person. So that's how it'll work for the public. So if we could go to the first slide, Jeff, it's the next slide, I should say. So our agenda for tonight, I'm doing the welcome. We have not met since January. I guess I should ask, anything interesting happened in the last 6 months since we've been away? Yeah, right. We'll go through the notebook materials, and we will do an approval of the January 27th minutes that were sent out to you in the pre-meeting packet. We'll spend a little bit of time on what we're calling working group perspectives, but I'll explain that in a little bit. We'll do a quick recap of our May-June virtual open house drop-in sessions that we did. As we always do, kind of the core of every working group meeting is always to go through the phase 2 implementation status. So we'll spend some time on that, but we always like to supplement kind of that implementation status update with something that we think would be of particular interest to the working group and the broader community. You may remember we had DTC come in and provide a presentation at our last working group meeting. For today, we're going to do a presentation. Well, we're not. John Fiore from DelDOT is going to do a presentation on DelDOT's bicycle program. And as I said, we will do the public comment at the end. And again, I will periodically remind the public of how to do that, just in case new people pop in. Next slide. So I hope most of us have gotten pretty comfortable with virtual meetings. They all are run differently. I guess the saying, if you've seen one virtual meeting, you've seen one virtual meeting, because everyone has their own sort of unique ways that they're doing it. The way we're going to do it is that we're going to keep everyone on mute. And if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, there are a couple ways that you can indicate that to us. The preferred method is to raise your hand virtually. And so what you see here with the screenshot and what's circled, and Jeff, maybe with your cursor, you can just sort of go around it. Yep. So you click on the participants button, and what that should do is pull up on the right side of your screen a list of all of the participants. And then Jeff, if you go to the next slide. And then in the bottom right of that, and it's very small, but underneath the last name, so you'll see, and you'll see it circled there in a red circle, there's a little hand, and you click on that hand, and I'm going to do that just for illustration. I'm clicking on raise the hand, and if you go to my name, you'll see that there's a hand, and that'll be how we know that you have a question. Alternatively, you can send us a chat and just say, I have a question. You don't have to say who you are. We'll be able to see who that is. And those would be the two methods that we use to work through our meeting. And hopefully, go ahead, Jeff.
Andrew, just to clarify, that's a way for the working group members
Correct.
to raise their hand and have a question. We would ask the members of the public do what Andrew mentioned previously and put in the chat that you would like to make a public comment at the end of the meeting.
Yes, thanks, Jeff. And we do, we even though we have a full agenda, and again, this is directed to the working group, we will have time for you all to interact. That's always a core of how these meetings are run. So even though it may be a little bit more cumbersome to kind of get to the question, we don't have microphones to pass around, so we're saving some time doing that. But we will get to you. Just be patient. But we just want to avoid sort of talking over each other. And I'm now going to lower my hand by clicking on that same button, and my hand goes away. So that's how we'll do it going forward. And we'll go to the next slide. So again, welcome. In terms of the notebook materials that were sent out ahead, we do have the agenda. We do have the full presentation in our notebook materials. We have the draft minutes of the January 27th working group meeting. We have a list of upcoming meetings, and we have the updated implementation plan. So you should be able to find that all in that packet that was sent out to you. So we didn't plan for this ahead of time, but I'm going to go for Jen. If you could unmute everyone, or if everyone could unmute themselves, I am going to bring us to the approval of minutes, and this is the one time where I think we'll do this sort of jointly. So hopefully there's not a lot of background noise. But does anyone have any questions on the January 27th meeting?
Jim Marvellis.
If not, could I get a question?
Gemma Lowry.
Everyone is unmuted, Andrew.
I'm just looking for a quick motion.
See you, Gemma. There you are.
Tammy
Smith.
Is there anyone who is willing to make a motion so we can get these approved?
Make the motion. Senator Lopez.
Senator, is there a second?
I'll second.
Who was that?
Lorraine Basley.
Get that name back?
Andrew, it was me. It's Josh. I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Josh. All in favor of approving January 27 minutes, just say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say nay. Okay, those are approved, and we're going to go back on mute, everyone, and we kind of got through that. All right, thank you. So, again, if everyone could go back on mute.
David Baker. Here. Rita Hughes.
Representative Schwarzkopf.
Richard Smith.
There we go. Okay, and Todd, I think, is the only one. Beautiful. Sorry for that, but we just had to kind of get through that. So the working group perspectives, I mentioned that briefly. Related to the 5 points transportation study, we haven't seen each of you in a long time. We were just kind of curious if any of you have any perspectives on the process to date. We really wanted to start the meeting by seeing if you had any comments or questions related to our study. Maybe it refers to the meetings or the virtual open house that we had, or any of our monthly communications that we've had with you, or just kind of in terms of inclusivity, how we're doing in terms of that. Not trying to force any particular discussion, but we felt like it was appropriate at this point. If anyone did have anything they wanted to share or any observations, again, if you would raise your hand or indicate in the chat box if you have anything. Okay.
Yeah, did you see my hand go up?
Who is that?
It's Bob Fisher. I clicked on maybe the wrong button, but I raised my hand.
Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I would like to thank Jennifer Sinelli, because her timely emails and assistance, and just in me being able to do this, I had to go out and get a headset, but she has just been a fantastic leader and facilitator with the panel from the beginning. And she continues to excel in the virtual reality and presence. So I just wanted to personally thank her in front of the entire working group for her outstanding work on behalf of this working group.
Great, that's nice. Always nice to start a meeting off with that. And I can't speak for the other working group members, but certainly the rest of the project team certainly concurs with your sentiments. Anyone else with anything else related to anything really working group related that's taken place over the last 6 months when we haven't been able to really be with each other? Okay, I don't, oh, there we go. Anne Marie, just unmute yourself.
So I just wanted to share that the city of Lewes had a municipal election about a week and a half ago, and we do have 2 new members of our city council that will be sworn in on August 10th. So it doesn't necessarily directly affect the working group, but you know, it obviously some change on the horizon in Lewes.
Well, that's always the elections come and we always get new people, and certainly the continuity of a group like this working group can kind of, I think, not just you and your role obviously can update those new elected officials, but if they ever need anything from us, just in terms of an update on what's happening in the area, they can always look for that briefing from us as well. So thank you for sharing that. And Anne-Marie, you can click on your hand and lower your hand now, okay? I don't see any other hands raised. Let me see. Yep, I don't see anything else in the chat. So I think we'll just move on. And obviously throughout, if anyone has any questions, you know, just raise that hand and I'll be trying to look for that.
Yeah, I'm here trying to unmute myself. Hello?
Okay. Yep, Gail,
Hello?
you're unmuted. We can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. I couldn't get it working. Thank you. And I would also like to say ditto to the comments about Jen Sinelli. She's been enormously helpful to me as well. And I did want to raise one issue that I think maybe it would be a good time to do this, because I don't know exactly where to fit it into the agenda, although I do see there are things on the agenda that apply to it. But I have been having a situation myself, and this is about master planning coordination in terms of coordinating the 5 points master plan effort, which seems to have been extremely well coordinated with other master plan efforts that have been underway, and specifically regarding the New Road Master Plan and the Kings Highway Master Plan. And what we're finding, and I work on this because of my representation on the Byway Committee, is that there doesn't seem to be as good coordination between the byway master planning efforts that took place a while back and like the Kings Highway Master Plan, which was in 2016, and subdivision review. And I think we need to turn our attention to that and figure out how we can make that happen better, because a big master planning effort went on for that whole area, which does connect via Clay Road and Old Orchard Road to New Road and 5 Points. It's all interconnected. And we also have the New Road Master Plan, which was just completed. And those master planning efforts tend to seem to get forgotten over time. So right now, we just happen to have a subdivision review, a rezoning that's come up on Kings Highway, which would have a large impact on that plan. And okay. So Gail, that needs to be integrated better. And I would like some help with that.
Okay, I don't know if Mark Cote or anyone else from DelDOT has any. Yeah, Mark, I see you came off mute. Do you want to just provide some thoughts on that?
Sure. Sorry, this is Mark Cote. I'm the director.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Gail. And, you know, in terms of the plans that are being reviewed along any of the scenic byways, they go through Mike Hahn's group for review. We're aware of them. The county certainly has a role in reviewing that and in kind of looking at whether those site plans are consistent with the master plan. So I think we have a lot of different eyes reviewing those site plans to make sure they're consistent with the master plan.
Okay, well, we can talk more about that later. But I don't want
Sure.
to take up too much time in this meeting, but what we see coming out doesn't seem to be consistent. So I'm sure that if we continue to work on it, maybe it just hasn't gotten to that point yet.
So,
And
yeah.
so that it's still in process. So
If you have any, specific comments on any of the plans, yeah, you can reach out to myself or Mike Hahn or Todd Salmons, anybody in the development.
thank you.
And as always, one of the benefits of our process, the working group process, is to identify issues or identify ways and to bring people together. So, I encourage Gail and Mark and Mike Hahn and anyone else to follow up offline. And if there's anything that this group can do to assist later on, great. But at this point, I'm not seeing any other, DJ, I do see a hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what Gail and then Mark said. I don't know about New Road, but on Kings Highway, there has been a lot of developer right-of-way or land that's been dedicated to DelDOT as right-of-way or either reserved. And when you look at between the high school project, the Shell project, the Mitchell project, and then the Gills Neck Village Center, you have basically a minimum of 110 feet of right-of-way that has been either reserved or dedicated, and that's doesn't include 30 feet, 15 on each side for shared use paths. So have about 140 feet along those site frontages of each one of those development projects that's available to be used by DelDOT for the project. So I think the biggest problem there is just getting the projects and the design and the CTP quicker, because while we have a lot of right-of-way there, we don't actually have a design to go based on. We're going based on the master plan, but that's a concept, and we really need to get that design started a lot sooner. So we can have more details of what right-of-way is actually required. In this case, I think the 110 is plenty, especially when you got 30 feet of easement on top of that.
Okay, I'd like to recognize Jamie Whitehouse with the county. Jamie? Jamie, you got to come off mute. Oh, Jamie's actually on as an attendee. So, Jen, are we able to bring him on and unmute him?
I'm working on it. Give me 1 second.
Okay. Okay, Jamie.
You're unmuted.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. No, in response to Gail's question, I'm happy to speak to Gail about that rezoning application on Kings Highway if she wants to contact me. I already understand that the Byways Committee wish to comment on that. So I'm happy to speak to her offline about that separately. So. Great.
So what I'd like to do now is, DJ, I think your hand is just still up, but I'm gonna move us along to turn it over to Jeff Rigner, and Jeff's gonna lead us through the majority of the presentation. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks, Andrew, and thanks everyone for participating. It's good to see you, if virtually rather than in person. The first thing I wanted to talk about is our virtual open house, which several of you participated in, thank you, as well as many members of the public between May 18th and June 6th. So the virtual open house had two parts. Part of it is materials that were posted on the study website. They're still there, so you're welcome to check those out, as well as a survey that closed, if I remember correctly, around June 12th or so, which we got several responses to, and I'll talk about in a second. But we also held 5 online drop-in sessions over about a 3-week period. We had a variety of days of the week and times of day to try to reach as many people as possible. We got about 75 folks, which, considering that it's an online process in the middle of trying to figure out how online processes work, we're pretty pleased with. It's more folks than we had at our, than we expected at an in-person meeting. So we thought that was a pretty good result. I mentioned the survey earlier, and here are some of the summary of results. 80% of respondents agreed or strongly agreed that the 5 points transportation study process is informative. We're very pleased to see that. 53% are pleased with the progress made on study recommendations over the past year, which again was really the focus of our virtual open house. We'd like to see that number higher, and hopefully through our continued engagement with the working group, that number will bump up the next time we issue the survey. About 2/3 like the amount of information or detail, or would even like a little bit more from the following 5 points email updates, which we have heard a lot of feedback have been good ways to get information out. A couple of folks have had questions about specific information in them, which means people are reading them, which is exactly what we were hoping would occur. And it's a great way to stay engaged with the public in between our quarterly working group meetings. And the number one topic of interest for future updates was shared use pathways. And John Fiore, as Andrew mentioned, is going to be speaking to those a little bit later today. And maybe we can get some of that information incorporated into the email update to share with folks who weren't able to participate today. So we also had interactive poll questions. Those of you who participated saw that. And we just wanted to get some general information about participants and how they were interacting with the process. So most participants heard about the virtual open house through the following 5 points email updates, which was good. Some folks heard through word of mouth, others through the article in the KPZ or other press releases. So there were a number of different ways, but the email updates seemed to be most effective. Most of our respondents were age 50 and over, with the bulk of those 65 and over. We welcome participation of everybody, and we're really hoping that we might be able to reach an even broader cross-section of people as we continue forward with our meetings. And most folks like the online format, and maybe in a little bit of a surprise, we love having in-person meetings. I think it's really important. And a lot of folks thought it was important to have online meetings in conjunction with in-person meetings. But we also had a significant number of people saying, hey, just online is fine. So it's good that more and more people are embracing the online format for meetings. And I certainly don't expect we're going to be getting away from in-person meetings anytime soon once we can return to them. So this kind of goes in hand with what Andrew was mentioning earlier, but any of you who participated in the virtual open house or who heard about the virtual open house from others who participated, what feedback can you offer us? What worked well? What things could we consider doing differently next time around?
So again, if you could raise your hand or send us a chat if you have anything you want to add. Again, this was a first impression thing for us, so we certainly don't feel we have all the answers. And okay, well, again, throughout the meeting, if at another point something pops in your head and you'd like to share something with us, please do. But I don't see anyone indicating an interest in jumping in on this. Jeff, okay. Why don't we keep moving along?
Sounds good. Now to the exciting portion of the meeting. As Andrew mentioned, the core of each meeting is giving you an update on the implementation plan. We do our best to keep this focused on things that have changed since we last got together. You may recall we didn't, of course, meet in April, but we did have information that we would have provided at a working group meeting posted to the 5 Points website. So there was a video presentation with the transcript, as well as the updated implementation plan spreadsheet. And as all of you who have been part of this process know, every item that changes from one meeting to another, we mark in bold red on the spreadsheet. So you can very clearly see what has changed from one meeting to another. So there are, you may recall, 78 recommendations across 5 categories, A through E. And as of April 2020, the materials that would have been a working group meeting, we had 39 of those 78 recommendations, half of them in progress, ongoing, or completed. So we had jumped in already with all of those, and they're spread out across all of the categories. We've added 3 to that. 2 of the 5 recommendations that we were going to initiate in 2020 that we talked about in January, we've moved forward on. and there are another 3 that remain to be started this year. Just to give you some perspective, for a long-term transportation plan, to have 78 recommendations is really a pretty remarkable lift for any agency or group of agencies to do. To get started on half of those within about the first year shows a significant commitment. So I hope you agree that there's been a lot of work that's happened. Of course, there's a lot that remains to be done, and we look forward to your continued active participation in that. But let's talk about what's changed since we last got together. Category A, nothing has changed in terms of status. All of these are projects that are already being addressed by current projects or initiatives, but we do have one update. Recommendation A5 was to evaluate service roads as part of the Minos Conaway Road grade separation project. Those are incorporated in the design. Design is moving forward, but there is one specific element we wanted to bring to your attention, and that is the potential for a new northbound off-ramp since these plans were last shown to the public. That would be north of, of New Road. So you can see at the drawing here, at the bottom are 2 roundabouts. That is where the extension of New Road would occur under the existing rail underpass of Route 1 and tie into a new frontage road along the west side of Route 1. The new ramp in question is shown right in the middle of the drawing, and that's a northbound off-ramp that would tie into a frontage road, which is currently the northbound lanes of Route 1 in the vicinity of Meineke. What that would do is provide a little more direct access for northbound traffic to be able to get to some of the properties on the northern part of Nassau Road, so between New Road and Old Mill. This is still being considered. It's a tight fit, to be frank with you. It's a fairly sharp curve on the exit ramp to be able to get it to fit. So DelDOT's design team is actively looking to make sure that there aren't any safety or operational concerns associated with doing that. And if they're able to do so in a way that's safe and works well from a traffic standpoint, it's something that will be incorporated into the design. And with this item or any others, again, I would also ask you to raise your hand, either literally raise your hand or raise in the on screen, as Andrew mentioned. He'll monitor people's hands and we'll see if anyone has any comments or questions. I'll hop forward to category B. We have a
Hey, Jeff,
yes,
before
sir.
you go on, Bob Fisher did raise his hand, so
Okay,
go ahead.
great.
Any change on the start date of the Minos Conaway Road grade separation projects? Is it still like 2026?
I don't believe there's a change, but I'm not sure I can confirm that date for sure. Shante, do you happen to recall?
I believe the completion of it is 2026, but it starts in, I want to say it's 23. I'll check and I'll put it in the chat box.
Oh, that's good news. Thank you. I got that wrong. I'm sorry. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Shante. Okay, so category B, we have a few more updates. One of our 2020 projects has gotten started. So B3 was to study the feasibility of changing signage starting in the Milford area to encourage through drivers who are headed south of Dewey Beach to consider using Route 1 or other routes to be able to get to areas like Bethany Beach and Fenwick Island. So the study was done, so it was marked complete, but we wanted to give you an update. DelDOT is soon going to start testing automated travel time displays on various variable message signs, indicating time to, say, Bethany Beach via Route 1, via Route 113 and 26, to be able to give good travel information to people who are approaching from that direction so that they can make smart choices about which route to take. Gail, you must have read ahead in the materials. So B9 was to study enhancing New Road per the Byway Master Plan. As I believe you alluded to, the master plan was endorsed by the Lewes Mayor and Council just a couple weeks ago. And in addition, they approved the Byway's request to transition to a city-led committee rather than being a city-led committee. So that's great. That's moving forward. I can report one of the capital projects in the area is a bridge state of good repair project on New Road over Canary Creek. And we had a public workshop, virtual public workshop for that a couple weeks ago. I guess it's now maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. And that design is specifically informed by the recommendations of the New Road Byway Master Plan. So I'm happy to report that it was already influencing DelDOT designs prior to its adoption. Any points to bring up on that? Gail, is there anything you'd like to add at this stage? Okay, hearing none.
There. Thank
I
you.
unmuted you.
Yes. First of all, thank you for including this, and thank you for all of that you have done with including the New Road Master Plan in your planning efforts. And with that, it's been a little bit easier because it's a very recent plan and it's all new, and so it's on the front of everybody's mind. And especially the Canary Creek Bridge. Again, I mean, that's a wonderful addition and a step forward for New Road, which I'm sure everyone in the city of Lewes would like to thank you for. But as we go forward, again, I want to just make sure that we don't see that the master plan kind of gets put on the back burner as new projects come along. So because what we are seeing is that short-term interim improvements that don't reflect master planning design elements that the community agreed on get lost over time. And that's what's important here, is that we remember that going forward and that we use these plans and keep them as live working documents, and so that they will actually be implemented, because these plans take a long time to actually happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carol, I see your hand raised. You want to jump?
Yes.
Carol? Oh, you got to unmute yourself if you are trying to talk. Right now, you're shown as muted, but you also are shown as having, there you go. Go ahead.
I'd like to know how the master plan is used by DelDOT to do the designs of all the roads in the design phase. Because as you know, I'm interested in Old Orchard being a part of this big master plan. And do we have one? I know Road has one, I know Kings Highway, but the connector road, Clay and Old Orchard, again, where is that in the planning process? And will you use the master plan to, go to Old Orchard and Clay Road? Or is there no master plan? I just want to know how it fits in to the design phase.
Mark, if you don't mind, I'll start off, and if you could chime in regarding byways in general. But byway master plans are initiated by the Byway Committee. And this is true, that's statewide and obviously, very relevant to the Lewes Byway. Each of the master plans, Kings Highway first and then New Road, are initiated by the Byway Committee and developed in conjunction with DelDOT and other stakeholders. So it's really an initiation of that other party. I will talk about Savannah Road in a second, and that probably will be the next one that comes in line. The Byway Committee has not initiated a byway master plan for Old Orchard Road or Clay Road or any of those other connecting roadways. So that's, we really draw our inspiration from what the Byway Committee does. Now, speaking to design, Carol, that you mentioned, whenever a design project, a capital project is initiated along a designated byway, that's something that's consulted by the design team at the very beginning of the process. So New Road, for example, over Canary Creek, just happens to be a very recent project that hasn't even entered final design yet. We're just doing conceptual design. And, you know, one of the first steps was to understand, is there a byway in the area? Yes, there is. You know, what does the byway master plan note for a particular roadway there? And incorporate that into our conceptual design that then continues into construction documents. Mark, is there anything you wanted to add regarding the byway process?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. Like you said, the new road is not yet entered that design phase. Similarly, with the Kings Highway design is still, you know, not started yet. So I think it's really only the West Coast Old Orchard realignment project is probably the only one, and that's been around a while. So I don't know the specifics of our comments, but that our project still goes through the review process. And again, planning would comment on the DOT's project to incorporate the byway master plan if there is one, or kind of like what it might likely be if it wasn't specifically approved yet.
I'd like to go to IG. IG, I think you came off mute with the intention of saying something.
Yeah, I want to kind of combine Gail's question and Carol's question and Mark's comment. You know, I see the plan, the Nassau plan, and going under the bridge, going down New Road, and now we see that the bridge is going to be part of a plan. The part that I'm missing is from New Road to Old Orchard to West Coast to Clay to Kings. And as Mark said, it's been around a while. I haven't seen it in a while. It's really not been part of this discussion as far as this is what we're planning and this is when. You know, the Nassau underpass and roundabouts and now a new ramp is all great. But now you're going to be on New Road and I'm going to go to Old Orchard and I'm going to end up at the high school. How, when, and how much traffic are you anticipating coming off the highway, off of Savannah, onto Clay to Kings? Is that all part of one discussion?
It is, IG. Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. We gave a presentation to, and this was separate from the 5 Points effort, but it is in the 5 Points website, to Lewes City Council and several members of the public back last July, because we heard that question a lot. You know, what's going to happen when you build all these capital projects? How are traffic patterns going to change? It's probably more detailed than we can get into in this meeting, but the upshot of it was the new capital projects would add a very small amount of traffic to New Road and Old Orchard Road. Developments would add a great deal, well, relatively speaking, much more traffic than the capital projects would. So the bottom line is New Road, Old Orchard Road are expected to experience additional traffic because new development's happening. Everyone's expecting that. But it's not something that's expected to overtax their capacity as two-lane roads. And, you know, it's something that is manageable in DelDOT's opinion.
All right, and I appreciate that. And I think at the Lewes meeting, there was some question about, you know, how much. And I think, as I remember that meeting, you were going to come back and deliver the how much. And I didn't attend that meeting if you did. But,
yeah, we actually did. It's a few hundred cars a day, if I remember correctly. It's maybe like 200 cars a day added to the roughly 4,000 cars a day on Old Orchard. And I don't recall the existing traffic on New Road, but it's also a few thousand cars a day where the projects would add no more than 200 cars a day. New developments would add a few thousand more on top of that, if memory serves. So that's
Okay.
pretty significant.
Is there a plan that really shows from Nassau to Kings Highway? Is there one map that you can say, here's the capital projects from the Nassau Bridge to New Road to Old Orchard to Clay to Kings?
It's a good question. I don't know that we think about it that way, but I don't know that we've ever drawn something. So that's probably not a bad idea to produce.
Okay.
So Jeff, I see a few other hands raised. I do want to move us along because we do have a lot left to do. Carol, I'm not sure if your hand was back up or if you left it up, but I'll come to you and then Anne Marie and then DJ. But if each of you could try to kind of keep it as succinct as possible, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. I just want to reiterate what IG said. It said it would be very nice to have a master plan. I know I love the byway master plans, but we're not a byway. So where's our plan? Where's Old Orchard? Where's Clay? Where's West Coast? We need the whole area, and we would appreciate seeing the master plan for the entire area. Thank you.
Anne Marie?
So the point I wanted to make, I think, is both IG and Jeff kind of mentioned it, but it's kind of like the exclamation point on it, is that the data that came back from DelDOT about how much traffic would be generated off of these capital projects, that number was fairly low. But I think the people who live in the area aren't as concerned about whether the increase in traffic is from more development or from a capital project. It's the accumulation of both things, and the overall gridlock that they're concerned about seeing in the area. So I don't know. I guess I just wanted to underscore that. I don't think that it's anything we can solve this evening, but it is still very much a concern.
Thanks.
And then DJ quickly, and then
yeah, I saw the Lewes report as well, and I personally think that the projections are grossly underestimating the amount of traffic that will divert off of Route 9 once you can get under Nassau Bridge. People do that today. A lot of locals do that today. And why more people don't do that is because the crossover to get to New Road is not it's the easiest thing to do, especially when you have to cross the 2 through lanes to get in the left turn lane for New Road. But now that you can go under the bridge via the service road, I think is going to encourage a lot more people than 200 a day to do that. So that's my opinion. I think others agree with that as well. But like Anne Marie said, regardless if it's new development or whatever the additional traffic that's coming, it needs to have a plan to be handled. And the DelDOT folks can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe Clay Road has plans to have shoulders all the way to Kings Highway. I think it stops in the area of Poor's propane right now. So if additional traffic is added, whether it's DelDOT projects or development, I think we probably should be planning for adding shoulders on Clay Road all the way over to Kings Highway.
Okay. DJ, I'm going to
one last thing.
Yep, go ahead.
The map that's being requested, page 14 of the 41-page PDF has a map that shows not quite everything, but it does show from the Villages of 5 Points access on Old Orchard Road all the way over towards Poor's Propane, and it has the West Coast project in it. So if that map could be expanded a little bit in each direction, then it would basically be what's being asked for.
Okay, I really want to move us along, but Bob Fisher, I'll give you 20 seconds. Be very quick, and then Gail, I'm going to give you 20. I'm going to really hold to this time frame, so be very succinct.
Very easy. This master plan that you all have been talking about needs to coordinate with the shared use pathway, because that road is going to intersect, those pathways and we're going to increase access, lots more bicycle traffic, particularly on the Georgetown Lewes path, which is going to be crossing Old Orchard, intersecting with other roads. The master plan for vehicles needs to coordinate with the master planning for bicycles, and we'll talk about that later.
Okay. And Gail, one last quick comment. You got to unmute, Gail.
I can't unmute. Is that it?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. I want to refer you to the fact that we have a lot more information available now because of the recent traffic study that was done for Kings Highway and Gills Neck Road for a project in that area, which DJ Hughes is certainly very familiar with. And I would suggest that everybody take a look at that traffic study because it will give you a lot better idea of the problems that we're going to face in the future with congestion in the area, and not to go on old numbers and information. I think if you look at those new numbers, it will help a lot.
Okay, great. Jeff, let's move ahead. Jen, if you could lower everyone's hands just to kind of get a clean slate. And Jeff, let's keep going through the implementation plan.
Sure thing. I think several of these are probably a little more straightforward updates. B21 is something that basically better understanding emergency vehicle preemption and how it can disrupt traffic, particularly during peak periods. Pleased to say new signal controllers were installed at several intersections along the corridor. They have a feature that will allow those signals to better respond after they're preempted by an emergency vehicle. So they're not quite fully operational. The vendor's working on firmware updates to make sure that that works. Our hope is that that will occur relatively soon. B25 is identifying the costs and benefits of dedicating Nassau Commons Boulevard to public use. This is now listed in progress. It's part of a development coordination project. DelDOT's working with the developer of the vineyards to upgrade the portion of Nassau Commons Boulevard adjacent to Route 9 and add turn lanes approaching Route 9. So part of Nassau Commons Boulevard would be dedicated to public use as part of that project. And we would still continue to look into how the rest of Nassau Commons Boulevard could potentially be dedicated to public use. Category C, I mentioned Savannah Road in the context of the Byway program a little bit earlier. We did mention at our last meeting that our study for a two-way left turn lane on Savannah Road is complete. It was not especially conclusive. It's physically possible to do, but it would take a lot of work, and we can't say for sure whether that's something that would be desirable to do. So the Byway Committee is investigating moving forward with a master plan for Savannah Road, which would follow up on the master plans for Kings Highway and New Road. And that master plan would consider whether a two-way left turn lane is appropriate or not. Andrew, I'm going to go ahead and go through all the C issues, and then if there are any hands raised, we can come back and answer questions if that's all right with you.
Yeah, that's fine. Jeff, if Anne Marie and Gail could lower their hands, that way I'll know if it's a new raise of hand. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks. C9, happy news we mentioned in our following 5 points update. This is short-term safety and operational improvements where Route 9, Plantation Road, Beaver Dam Road all come together just west of 5 points. Some short-term improvements were put into place just this spring. So they are complete. So there's signing and striping improvements to better organize and direct westbound Route 9 traffic flow. And you can really see that most clearly in the top right and bottom photos here. Before it was 2 lanes that kind of narrowed to 1 lane and then went back out to 2. And we saw from field observations that just really wasn't clear how drivers were supposed to behave. So within the room that was available we're able to stripe 2 separate lanes. So it was really clear how you could get there. And you can see a sign there in advance on the top left of your screen that directs people as they're headed north on Route 1, which left turn lane they should be in to go to their destination. So hopefully that's been well received. Love to once we get to Q&A on this portion, love to get your thoughts on how that's working. C12 is access management opportunities along Route 1. Just to remind you, access management means connections between private properties and potentially reducing the number of access points onto and off of Route 1. So this is now in progress. Sussex County has reviewed multiple commercial projects along Route 1 and does so with respect to interconnectivity on every review that they do. I'll also note that it's still our hope, and we've mentioned this in a past meeting, that we might be able to provide direct access to Lowe's from southbound Route 1 rather than Plantation Road. That has not yet advanced, but it's still our hope to be able to move that forward at some point relatively soon. C20 is a fairly minor update, and that's replacing the HAWK or pedestrian hybrid beacon signal with a full signal at Holland Glade Road. That's to the south of our study area. A new plan came in from the developer to DelDOT Development Coordination, so they're reviewing it, determining how that's going to work. So the developer still intends to move forward with that at some point. Category D, walking, bicycling, and transit. Go ahead, Andrew, you have something?
Jeff, I'm sorry. The speaker just raised his hand, has a question.
Great.
How you doing, Jeff? I just a comment about the Holland Glade intersection. Unless you can give me access out of the outlets to that intersection to go northbound, I would not be in favor of that. So we would have to try it, and it's going to be a problem because there's a great big ass telephone pole in the way. But if we could do that, that would be ideal. If you could get right there by IHOP somewhere and actually coming out and taking cars north, which would help. I mean, if you're going to go to trouble of putting a 3-way intersection, make it 4-way, bring them out of the outlets on the north side to go north, and that would help the County Bank intersection tremendously.
If I could address, I agree, Mr. Speaker, that that is the goal, and we are in the final stages of circulating an agreement to make that happen with the developer down Holland Glade for coastal safety. Also,
Mark, hold on for a second. Speaker, could you go back on mute? I think we're getting some feedback from your.
It's not me. I don't think it's me.
Yeah, okay. I believe it's DJ's line.
Yeah, DJ, could you mute? Thank you. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Mark.
Sure. So the quick summary is we are working on agreement with the developer on the east side and the outlets on the west side to make it a 4-legged intersection to allow lefts in coming southbound on Route 1 onto Holland Glade, and then also allow lefts out of Holland Glade and lefts out of the outlets to go north. So we agree that that will substantially help that intersection. It'll help the outlets, and it'll help Shuttle Road to the south and eliminate a lot of U-turn movements and queuing, making movements that they don't really want to make, and they'll be able to make those more direct movements. So we're in the.
Well, I am so happy that we all agree.
And 2 things before I go to DJ. Kim Huey Stevenson did on chat just say, I agree with the speaker on this. So you can copy those words, speaker, and just use them whenever you want on any issue now, I guess.
Jot this date and time down in history.
DJ.
Thank you, guys.
Just real quick, I wanted to agree with both Pete and Mark. I think if you're going to do a signal there, it only makes sense that out from the outlets, in addition to Holland Glade, the pressure it would take off of Shuttle Road, and just the amount that are trying to be funneled through Shuttle Road from the outlets right now, it would be significant operational and safety improvement there.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
So like I said, we're in the final stages of an agreement, and then working out. I think we have all the cost sharing worked out, and then the next is the design is almost finished, and we are then working on timing for construction.
Good information. Jeff, why don't we
Thank you.
continue?
Yep, category D. So this is bicycling, pedestrian, and transit, and most of these have to do with transit this time around. So D1 was to study the possibility of a hop-on, hop-off jitney service. DTC's reviewed this, so they asked that the municipality, so Lewes are potentially working with Sussex County. If that's something that they would like to move forward, DTC would be happy to advise, assist with feasibility, serve as a partner, what have you. But it's not something that they are really in a position to be able to lead right now. Just so everyone in the group is aware, and many of you probably are, but transit services were hit terribly by COVID-19. And DTC is now back up to full service. I believe on all routes. It may be an exception, but I believe on all routes, which is pretty extraordinary recovery compared to many other agencies around the country. So, you know, to the extent to which others can partner with them to make things happen, I'm sure they would appreciate it. That's my editorializing, not their message, but I believe that's the case. You also asked, as a working group, about D7, which is the feasibility of transit service to tie Milton and nearby areas into the transit network. John Sisson gave a presentation on this back in January, but indicating that it was in progress and expressing some concern about how far out of the way buses would need to go, which would cause an issue with through travelers. And he determined, as expected, that a typical fixed route bus service was not going to be feasible at this point. But DTC has improved some service connections for transfers, which would allow folks to be able to get to Milton a little bit more conveniently. So it's not a redirection of current service, but at least it's a transfer opportunity to be able to provide better service than existed before. Also add that DTC is looking at other, I guess, less conventional or more innovative transit services that are better able to serve the area, you know, potentially shuttles or micro transit, things like that, to be able to operate as a pilot. So basically this request put Milton on the list to be reviewed as potential pilot location for those types of services that are implemented by DTC statewide. So I think that's a pretty positive development. D11 was regarding providing context-sensitive shelters at bus stops. This is now in progress. DTC now has a new statewide standard for bus shelters. They have installed 13 of them to date in the Rehoboth Beach and Lewes area at higher ridership locations. And they continue to look for opportunities to provide those upgrades as they're needed. And DTC wanted to add a few more things that they've done to improve transit in the area that I just would like to read off here quickly. So they've expanded their route service to better serve downtown Lewes and the ferry terminal. I already mentioned the improved service connections for transfers on the 206 and 303. They've increased service frequencies for the 204. They've looked at the potential for fixed route service all the way to the state park. At this point, it's not feasible because the roads are not designed to accommodate buses, and there really isn't a feasible place to turn buses around at the park. As you can expect, a point-to-point route requires a place for a 40-foot vehicle to turn around, or at least a 30-foot vehicle to turn around, and there isn't a place to do that right now.
Jeff,
and finally,
Jeff,
may I finish one thing, Andrew, and then we'll take questions, if that's okay? So the last thing from DTC is that they're also actively involved in the development coordination process. So they're looking for ways to provide shelters or to enable crossings and such to work at bus stops along Freeman Highway, Route 9, Kings Highway. So, one example is DTC is working with folks to how best to provide connections to the Lewes Library. And I think we're ready for questions then, Andrew, on category D.
Speaker Schwarzkopf?
Yeah, I want to go back to the putting up of the shelters at the bus stops. I think at the last meeting, I don't even remember who I talked to, but I talked to somebody about helping to pay for some of those shelters. I think what are they, like $9,000 a piece or something? Does that sound right?
That's the right order of magnitude, but I'm not sure.
Well, I need to get up with somebody. I'll fund a few of them.
Okay.
CTF money.
Okay.
Thank you.
And just a reminder that we are recording these working group meetings. Just a reminder.
Hey, my money's good.
Andrew, Tramika Cherry Walls from DTC is on the line. I'll make sure she hears the speaker's request.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, they could either get up with me or get up with my assistant, Eric Hastings, and we'll get something worked out.
I'll send her the information. Thank you, Speaker.
Thanks.
Okay, Bob Fisher, I'll recognize you. DJ, I see your hand up. I think that was left up from the last round. So if you could lower that yep, thank you. Bob, go ahead.
Yes, I remember it might have been Speaker Schwarzkopf that asked about looking into transit buses being able to take bicycles on them. Again, my focus going forward is integrating the bicyclist access to all the transportation alternatives, and that would include picking up one of these transit buses and moving them somewhere else in the area. So has that been looked at? I didn't see anything in it. I think you remember there was an action item given at maybe 6 months ago at the last in-person meeting along that lines. Anybody else remember that topic?
Bob, do you mean in addition to the racks on the front of buses to carry bikes?
Well, okay, I don't know so I don't know what they have now, but it seemed to me like it wasn't me asking the question, but I remember it being asked that there was some insufficiency. So has it, if it's already adequate, then the answer to my question is it's already there. But the last time it was asked, it didn't seem like that adequacy had been established.
Okay, we'll look into that. There are bike racks on the front of all buses, all conventional fixtured buses, not the statewide intercounty routes. But we'll look into that and see if there's anything to follow up
on. Gail, Bob, if you could lower your hand, and Gail, if you could unmute. Go ahead.
Yes, on the using buses to access Cape Ann Open State Park. I mean, obviously, I think that the hop on, hop off jitney service makes a whole lot more sense. But what I wanted to emphasize is that the state park has a capacity of not only how many cars it can take, but how many people it can take. And I think that it needs to be well coordinated in terms of if you were bringing busloads of people to the park, that would have to be carefully coordinated with the park, rather than just dropping off a lot of people who could walk into the park and then would exceed their capacity. And I'm wondering if the DTC is considering that, and are they working closely with state parks on that and not just looking at the road and a turnaround?
They have just heard that suggestion, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Gail, if you could lower your hand. Jeff, you can continue.
Thank you. So there are no updates in category E at this point. We do have 3 of those 9 things in progress. There will be fewer updates in category E because these are bigger, longer term issues. So we will report updates as they're available. So to wrap up our implementation plan discussion, our next steps are to continue work on recommendations as we always do, to provide email progress updates in each of the months that we don't meet. So that's August and September. And then we're reconvening our group, put it on your calendar, October 26th of this year. And that's it for me.
Okay. Before we're going to go to our presentation from John Fiore with DelDOT bicycle program, I just want to remind the members of the public that we do reserve time at the end of our meeting for public comment. If you are interested in making a comment, again, we have a process where we will call your name, we will unmute you, you will have a minute to make a comment related to our 5-point transportation study. We will then kind of go to the next person in line. We'll unmute you, go to the next person. Right now, I'm not aware of anyone who has signed up or indicated that they would like to make a comment. If you would like to make a comment, go either to the chat box or the Q&A box, either one, and just type in there your name and just say, I would like to make a comment, and we will then come to you. Again, there's no requirement that you do that, but we just want to make that option available to you and let you know how to go about doing that. As always, you can always go to our project webpage, and there's links in there where you can send an email to our project manager, Jen Sinelli. So if there's something you don't really feel comfortable talking about in public, you can always just send an email to our project team. So with that, I am going to now turn it over to John Fiore, who's going to go through, I think, an interesting presentation that you all will find interesting. If you do have questions, again, raise your hand. But I'm going to try to just take, at most one or maybe two questions per topic and kind of keep John moving. And then we can always come back at the end for a more intensive Q&A with John. So John, you're up.
All right. Thanks for having me. My name is John Fiore. I'm the bicycle coordinator within local systems of planning. Just to give you a brief history of myself, I've been with DelDOT for 31 years. I've been in planning since October 2001 as the Sussex County subdivision manager, and then recently became the bicycle coordinator in August of 2015. And so this presentation, we're going to be going over some topics. And some of these topics, as you see on this slide, include the bicycle-friendly accomplishments, what DelDOT has done to support bicycling and improve infrastructure and safety, trail crossings at roadways, bicycle safety countermeasures, Delaware bicycle laws, connections to trails, and how the working group can help. Next slide. Again, first topic we're going to talk about is some bicycle-friendly accomplishments. Through the League of American Bicyclists, Delaware has been consistently ranked as one of the most bicycle-friendly state in the nation. This slide shows our rankings over the years. From 2008, Delaware was 31st. So recently in 2019, Delaware's number 6, with the highest ranking being in 2015 and 2016 as number 3 in the country. Another bicycle-friendly accomplishment is that Delaware has in each county a bicycle-friendly community. In Newcastle, it's the city of Newark. In Kent County, it's the city of Dover. And Sussex County, it's the city of Lewes. As you can see, each of these communities received a bronze status award. The status is valid for 4 years. There are 5 awards that a community can get through the League of American Bicyclists. They're diamond, platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. If a community would like to apply to be a bicycle-friendly community, they would just have to log on to the League of American Bicyclists website, go to bicycle-friendly community, fill out an application, and send it in by the designated deadline. And then based on the answers provided and other information that's obtained by the League of American Bicyclists, depending how that is ranked, will determine the status that is awarded. So at least in Delaware, we have one in each county, which I think is pretty good. And then lastly, Delaware has been awarded bicycle-friendly status for the city of Newark and the Delaware Department of Transportation. Again, they had the same statuses as the communities, the diamond, platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. And it is a status that is valid for 4 years, in which after the 4 years you would reapply. None of these awards could have been accomplished without the support of the local land use and state agency, as well as the communities. That includes investing in bicycle infrastructure and the adoption of policies and programs. And we hope to continue this moving forward. Next topic I'm going to go over is the bicycling support infrastructure and safety improvements. This slide here is concerning the blueprint for bicycle friendly Delaware. The department is committed in supporting all modes of transportation and improved infrastructure that will make Delaware even more bicycle safe. In April 2018, the department approved the blueprint for a bicycle-friendly Delaware, a statewide policy plan. This plan was developed by the working group that consists of multiple organizations from private, local, county, and state agencies. This plan will help in investment strategies by promoting bicycling as a safe mode of transportation and utilizes the latest innovative bicycle design standards and guidance in creating safe bicycle networks. These next couple slides are to go over our trails and pathway projects. This is our bike at the beach map for the Lewes Rehoboth area. This shows all the existing trails that are in the area that people can use to ride and not have to be along the roadway or specifically SR1, and also shows some of the future trails that are being constructed. You can go to the next slide. This is just a blow up. Again, this shows the Junction Breakwater Trail, Gordon's Pond Trail, and does show the recently completed Cape Henlopen State Park Trail that goes from the Lewes and Rehoboth Canal along the abandoned railroad all the way to the entrance of the state park. And then on the left, you will see the Georgetown to Lewes Trail with an arrow saying at that time we had the connection that is about 4.9 miles, which now is about 6.5 miles. Okay, this is the Junction Breakwater Trail. The earliest trails and pathway projects were the Junction Breakwater Trail and Gordon's Pond Trail. This provided a regional loop route connecting Lewes and Rehoboth. The two trails vary in types from a paved shared use trail, finely crushed stone trail, and on-street facilities that creates a 16-mile loop. The Gordon's Pond Trail is in Cape Henlopen State Park. A section of the trail includes a half-mile elevated boardwalk over wetlands with observation areas. The Junction Breakwater Trail runs through Cape Henlopen State Park next to wetlands, farmlands, residential communities, and connects to the outlets. Currently in design is the final phase of the Junction Breakwater Trail Rehoboth connection from Church Street to Rehoboth Avenue. The scope of this project is to provide a paved shared use trail from Church Street to Rehoboth Avenue, then cross the bridge and connect to the trail into Grove Park. The PS&E is anticipated in November of 2020. Next is the Georgetown to Lewes Trail. A major infrastructure project for non-motorized transportation is the Georgetown to Lewes Trail. When completed, this project will consist of a paved shared use trail that extends a total of 17 miles between the city of Georgetown and Lewes, creating the single longest trail in Delaware. This trail also connects to the Junction Breakwater Trail, in which one day a person can bicycle from Georgetown to Rehoboth on a separated trail without having to bike on the highway. And then these are some pictures of some of the phases of the Georgetown and Lewes Trail. Phase 1 from Gills Neck to Savannah was completed in 2016, and Phase 2 from Savannah to Log Cabin Hill Road was completed in 2018. In June of 2020, the section from Log Cabin Hill Road to Cool Spring Road was completed for a total of 6.5 miles from Gills Neck Road to Cool Spring Road. Currently in design is the section from Georgetown Little League Fields to Park Avenue, and the section from Cool Spring Road to Fisher Hudson Road intersection. Again, this is the Cape Henlopen State Park Trail. In 2018, the Cape Henlopen State Park completed a section of the trail from the park entrance to the canal along the abandoned railroad line. This consists of a paved shared use trail and a small section that is a two-way cycle track. There is also a spur connector from the trail to American Legion Road.
Hey, John, before you go on, I see Gail, you raised your hand. Is there something you wanted to ask John? Oh, Gail, you're on mute. You got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you
There you go.
unmute me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Well, you have that Cape Henlopen, the Freeman Highway crossing picture up there on the screen. That to me is an accident waiting to happen. I mean, I see that you have stop signs up there for the bikers, but I use this crossing all the time because I live close by. And the bikers often do not stop. If they think they have a clear, crossing, they may look from back on the trail, and then all of a sudden they'll be out in front of you. We need one of those lights there, blinking lights or something more to make the cars aware, because I've come too close too many times to hitting somebody. And that is a busy highway with people traveling, at least 40 miles per hour or more. And it needs to be addressed.
Well, this section of roadway is maintained by the Delaware River Bay Authority.
Ferry. Right,
And
I know
I
that.
believe when this was originally installed that the lights, the rapid flashing beacons were installed, but it's my understanding that the Delaware River Bay Authority did not want those lights and had them removed. We are working with the Delaware River Bay Authority. On this picture, you can see there's cameras on top of those signs. So we are monitoring the situation with Delaware River Bay Authority through this summer season, and we're going to look at the data to see if those rapid flashing beacons are warranted. So it is being looked at currently.
Okay, thank you.
And Kim, if you could come off mute and ask a question or make a comment.
My question was just about the map that you have. Does it clearly mark where people should park to get onto the trail with their bikes? Just because I live on the trail, and we've had a lot of people showing up in our neighborhood parking on the streets.
We can look at that. I mean, they have the Wolf Neck Road trailhead marked. It does not, unless you go back one more slide, Jeff. Okay, it does not appear that the Lewes Library trailhead is shown. So, I mean, these maps are easily updatable. So if there's anything you see that you think should be needed to make this map easier and better, all you got to do is contact me, and we can take a look at it, and if need be, we can get it updated. So we try to do updates every year, and so yeah, shouldn't be a problem if you think something like that needs to be added. Just let me know.
I think that's my suggestion. That just park here, because they're starting to show up in all sorts of crazy places. But okay. Thanks.
IG.
Yeah, I'm going to echo Gail's comment on the bike crossing, whether it be Minos Conaway or Cool Spring or anywhere the bike crosses the road. There is just an accident waiting to happen, and it's not going to be long, and it's not going to be pretty. There are solutions for this, and I always go by the, it's the lighter guy that has to yield. If it's me against.
IG,
we lost this connection.
IG,
You with me?
Yep, keep going. We got you.
Yeah, I think it's, it's the lighter guy, but that isn't what the bikers feel. I mean, they kind of feel that they have the right to cross the road. And I just think there's a solution. This is being done all across the country, and it's the same issue. And I think we got to look at it as the safety of the biker crossing the road. That's just, something has to be done. And especially on these roads that are out by me where the speed limit is, 45, and you got a trash truck or you got a tow truck, and they just can't get on the brakes as quick as a car doing 25 in Lewes. So it's very serious, and I would ask you to look at it.
Okay. And Bob Fisher.
Yeah, John Fiore can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I read the code, and the bicyclist is not required to stop at a stop sign if it's a 1 lane in each direction road, but obviously he does not have the right of way. The stop means that the motor vehicles have the right of way, but because it's hard for some bicyclists to stop and have to put their feet down. John, am I correct on this? If you may need to change the law if you want it to be safer. John, you see where I'm coming from?
Well, this will be discussed later, but the Delaware yield laws indicates that bicyclists are not required to stop at stop signs if the coast is clear, but must stop or yield if there is oncoming traffic. So I don't know if that's what you're trying to say or not, Bob, but like I said, going over a little bit of this later on in the presentation under bicycle laws.
Why don't you keep going? I think it was good to have a little break there, a little discussion, but why don't we keep going?
Yep. All right. I think we're either on 52. Yep. 52. Savannah Road. Okay. In 2018, Savannah Road was improved via a transportation alternatives program project with the city of Lewes to add bike lanes on each side from the bridge to American Legion Road, and improve American Legion Road to add on-road bicycle facilities from Savannah Road to the Cape and Lopin State Park Trail. This project was also coordinated with the bridge improvements to the Lewes Drawbridge project that was recently completed. Now, what I'm going to go over briefly is DOT's projects that DelDOT is working on. DelDOT has multiple projects that were designed to improve infrastructure and safety. One of the earliest projects was the SR1 sidewalk improvement project. The limits were from 5 Points intersection to Rehoboth Avenue and consisted of installing sidewalk to fill in gaps along north and southbound sides of SR1. This project was completed in 2016. Currently in design are 3 major roadway intersection improvement projects in the Lewes Rehoboth Beach areas, which are Plantation Road improvements, Robinsonville Road to US 9. This provides intersection safety improvements, pedestrian and bicycle improvements, and the realignment of Plantations, Beaver Dam, and US 9 intersection. The realignment of Old Orchard Road and West Coast Corner. This is the realignment of Old Orchard Road to the intersection of Savannah Road at its intersection with West Coast Road. The intersection of West Coast Road and Clay Road will also be improved. Pedestrians and bicycle facilities will be incorporated throughout the project. And SR1 Minos Conaway Road grade separated intersection. This project provides a grade separated intersection to separate through movements along SR1 and turning movements to and from Minos Conaway Road, Nassau Road, and Old Mill Road. A shared use path would also be constructed to accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists. Also, as part of this project, local systems and planning is designing the Tom Draper Trailhead that will be next to Nassau Grove across from the Lewes Senior Center. Next topic is we're going to be talking about is crossings. It's something that IG Burton was discussing earlier. After the completion of the first two phases of the Georgetown to Lewes Trail, complaints came in about safety concerns where the trail crosses roadways. It is believed that the early complaints were due to that this is being a new type of facility, and it will just take time for motorists and non-motorized users to become familiar and how to maneuver at the crossings. Over time, the complaints have become infrequent, but concerns still exist at the road crossings. The issues involve bicyclists and or motorists not stopping or properly yielding. It is imperative that both bicyclists and motorists obey the rules of the road to make this safe for everyone. Now, this being the beach areas, the turnaround changes every week, if not every day. You're going to have new users all the time who may not be familiar with the rules of the roads or how to, safely cross these intersections. So I think, trying to get the word out through education, getting information on kiosks, or would be helpful in my opinion, and informing the users of how to safely cross at these crossings. To address the concerns, a study was completed for each crossing where signing improvements were recommended and completed at all road crossings along the trail. All right, and next one topic is bicycle safety and some of the countermeasures that DelDOT has implemented. After the completion of the sidewalk project along SR1, bicyclists have the option of using the designated bike bus right turn lane, providing the bicyclist is riding with traffic, or use the sidewalk and ride with or opposite of traffic. Since 2016, annually there have been numerous accidents involving bicyclists. The accident that typically occurs is when a motorist is leaving an entrance and is only looking at the oncoming traffic, and when there is an opening, the motorist enters the traffic. However, the motorist either does not make a legal stop or look in the other direction prior to entering traffic and overtakes a bicyclist. Understand that the bicyclist also has the responsibility to make sure the motorist sees him or her prior to crossing and should be riding defensively in order to prevent this from happening. In 2017, the Delaware Bicycle Council requested DelDOT to investigate what could be done in order to reduce these accidents along SR1. The request was studied where the following countermeasures have been implemented or ongoing. The first one is we added stenciling along the sidewalk. In 2018, DelDOT approved a sidewalk stencil stating slow down, look for traffic. These stencils were placed at more than 40 high volume entrances between 5 Points and Rehoboth Canal and re-stenciled in 2019. For 2020, DelDOT inspected the existing stencils to determine which needs to be re-stenciled or added along the corridor. Now, Jeff, you can just keep this slide here for a few, and I want to go over some installation of signage. In 2019, DelDOT approved the installation of traffic control devices for egress movements at certain driveways or key intersections, warning motorists about pedestrian and bicycle usage. These signs have been installed per the SR1 Bike Sign Improvement Plan. Other countermeasures is that DelDOT continues to address concerns using education and enforcement strategies, bicycle safety seminars, and bicycle safety checkpoints. The department currently has on the Delaware Bicycle website bicycle safety brochures and bicycle laws outlining what all users should do in making bicycling safe for everyone. As you see here, this is one of the brochures that were created that we hand out at our seminars and our bicycle safety checkpoints. that goes over some of the basic know the law before you ride and enforcing bicycle safety. And so we do hand a lot of these out during the summer season. DelDOT conducts bicycle safety seminars by partnering with the International Student Outreach Program and other businesses who employ international students during the summer months. When the international students arrive, their only means of transportation is to a bicycle. Through our DelDOT bicycle program, we have we loan out bikes, and as part of loaning out a bike, you have to take a safety seminar that goes over, has an in-class section which goes over the laws, the rules of the road, where to bike, and other means instead of biking, such as bus transportation. And then the second part is we actually have them do what we call a little bit of a road bicycle obstacle course, where we have them go through certain stations that does some very general bicycle safety riding tips and judge their ability to ride a bike, and then we can work with that person if they need additional help on riding a bike. Because hate to say it, when they arrive, we ask them, do you know how to ride a bike? And they're like, yes. We give them a bike, and you could tell they either if it's their first time riding, they've only ridden a bike a few times. So we try to help those individuals that really need help in riding a bike properly.
Hey,
and
John,
then,
Councilman Burton has his hand up. IG?
John, I love this program. I think the international students are certainly a category that you need to address. But what I'm talking about is you got a 9-year-old running ahead of a mom and a 7-year-old running up behind a mom, and they're coming into Cool Spring intersection of a 45-mile-an-hour road. I don't know what the brochure does. And or you got the guy in the spandex suit with 10 of his other riders, and they're drafting just as hard as they can down that trail, and they're going across Cool Spring Road, which is a 45-mile-an-hour road.
Mm-hmm.
I just think you gotta take this seriously, and you gotta funnel the bikers into a stop or into just a slow down mode, so at least the child knows to wait for his mom, and the spandex suitors know that they just can't go buzzing all 10 of them across the road and hope the cars see them. I think this is a brochure doesn't cut it for me, and I really wish that DelDOT would look at these cross sections and try and get the awareness up other than a stencil and a brochure.
I'm going to go to Speaker Schwarzkopf and then Bob Fisher. Speaker, you got to come off mute.
I'm trying to. It wouldn't come off. I want to echo what IG is saying. It's dangerous. I mean, it really is dangerous. And the bottom line, when we were talking about the law a little while ago and who yields to who, that's on a public highway. These are not public highways. And I don't know. Obviously, there's a section in there that says something about DelDOT can name other areas too, but I don't know whether they've done that or not. I'm also looking at this law that allows them to run through the stop sign. Expires October 5th, 2021. So I'm not sure whether that's was put in there to see how it worked or whatever, but I'll be honest with you, I think it should be repealed. They want to be, the law treats a bicycle as a car, so make them stop, make them come to a complete stop. Just like IG saying. And I heard somebody was talking about the Gills Neck Road where it comes down. There are fluorescent yellow poles, there are stop signs, there are all kinds of stuff. And if they don't stop coming out on that road, I don't really know what else you can do. But I think, in all honesty, and I've been talking to Ernie on the side here, that part about giving the bikes, and I have mixed feelings about it. You're on a back road somewhere, you come to a stop sign, there's nobody around, run through it. That's what they do now. I mean, but I just don't understand why when you put them on a trail, that they still think they have the right that cars do. Because they're not covered by that law where they can run that stop sign.
Well, and that's the case. I don't know if they are covered because we were at a meeting. I don't know if it was last year that Ernie Lopez had at the Lewes Library, and the same question was asked about the Delaware yield. Does that pertain to trails? And there was numerous law enforcement agencies there from different municipalities, and I hate to say it, they each had a different opinion.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
So it has to come from Dover on I guess how that law is to be interpreted. In my opinion, it's just like the law was passed, so how's it to be interpreted when it comes to trails? I don't think it specifically says that, and I'm not an attorney to say how it should be. I can only say that as per the law, the Delaware yield is in effect. I don't think it states anywhere in there that I can see about trails. I don't know if that's something that needs to be addressed separately.
No, and the bottom line, the section, I mean, where is it here? Hold on. It talks about prior to that section and after that section, it talks about roadways. And a trailway is not considered a roadway, but it doesn't specifically say that in the section about the bicycles approaching or entering an intersection.
Okay.
So I really don't know the answer to that. I would think that either way you go, I think you'd have a legal defense either way. It needs to be cleaned up, it needs to be tightened up, and it needs to be, I'll be honest with you, that part where they can just run the stop sign needs to go away, especially down here. And you get on a back road or something, I don't know any cop that's going to stop you for cruising through, a stop sign on a bicycle when nobody's around. I'm sure we have a couple out there that might, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree. It just needs to somehow be clarified so that everyone is on the same page. Because
the problem with this, and IG hit one part of it, but I think he might have the other part wrong. I'm wrong on some of it. It's not the avid bicyclist that's the problem on coming out on these roads, except where what IG was saying out there at Cool Spring. I think that's a dangerous one, big time. So most of these other guys that know about bicycling know when they come to the yellow poles and the stop signs, they have to stop. And if the car is that damn close that they can hit you, the car has the right of way. So.
Speaker, I'm going to go to, we're running a little behind schedule, but I did recognize Bob. Bob, why don't you go quickly? We'll come to Scott Green quickly, but if people could try to make these really short comments and then let John wrap up his presentation, and then we can have a little bit of Q&A after that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not just vehicles and the bicyclist. Less than a month ago, there was a head-on between two bicycles going 30 miles an hour in the opposite direction, and one guy got medevaced and the other one took to the local hospital. I don't think anybody died, but it was pretty bad. John, are you aware of bicycle-to-bicycle intersections or bicycle running over kids or pedestrians? Is that a fairly serious problem in the state? You're probably aware of those statistics. Are you concerned about that as more and more people pour onto these shared use trails?
We have received through emails, through our community relations, that people email us and have expressed concerns of either a walker or runner almost being overtaken by a cyclist because they were going way too fast on the trail when the trail was being highly used. And then other than the one on 4th of July weekend, I have not heard of any other head-on bicycle to bicycle collisions. But there have been concerns of people either getting hit, and a lot of times these aren't reported because some of them are not seriously injured enough to have EMTs. But we have received complaints of almost people being almost hit by, if not being hit by bicyclists, not themselves. It could be their children or grandchildren. So, I mean, we try to get the word out that this trail is for all users. And I hate to say this, use common sense, but people don't do that. You have some of these spandex riders and that think that trail is just for them, and they think that they can go as fast as they want, as long as they want. which I don't have a problem with if there's nobody else on the trail. But when you start seeing other users, other bicyclists of different abilities, than people running, walking with their children or grandchildren, then use common sense. Slow down, be safe. But
John, let me go. Scott lowered his hand. So Scott, if you do want to say something, just raise your hand again. But let me go to Mark Cote.
Yes, I was going to say that we're aware of that head-on accident and our understanding of the circumstances of that is basically it was a rider making an unsafe passing maneuver when it was not clear, either impatient or frustrated. So very similar to a driver frustration. This was on the path and made an unsafe maneuver and got into the head-on collision. There was also another accident. I forget where, but we get those accidents do make their way back to us and reported, and we file those away and look for patterns and look to see what the circumstances of each accident is. So we're aware.
Okay. And then last quick comment from DJ, and then I'm going to have John wrap up the presentation. DJ, do you have a question? Your hand is up, but.
Yeah, sorry, I had trouble there. I just want to basically back up what Pete said. My personal opinion on the stop sign law is it's a horribly unsafe law. I think it's confusing. When I ride my bike with my kids, I make them stop at a stop sign every time because I don't want them to get in the habit of not stopping at a stop sign every time. And if there was a expiration date put in there, I think it was because maybe there was some trial basis, but I think the trial should be over. And Ernie, if you guys think it's good to repeal it before it expires, I think that would be a great idea.
John, why don't you, we're going to go through all the way now, and then we'll just take a couple quick questions at the end. All right, John?
Okay. To finish up the countermeasures, I just want to lastly say that the DelDOT bicycle program continues to partner with Sussex cyclists and municipality law enforcement on conducting bicycle safety checkpoints during the summer months. Typically, we have about 15 checkpoints. However, this season, due to COVID-19, all checkpoints for 2020 have been canceled, but we are hoping to come back strong in 2021. And now we're going to go over some of the bicycle laws. The current bicycle laws are found in Title 21 of the Delaware Code under Chapter 41. You can also find these laws summarized in the Delaware Bicycle Law Brochure at the website you see on the screen. Today we'll focus on key parts of the Bicycle Friendly Act of 2017. This is the brochure that's online. It was revised in August of 2018 and does incorporate the Bicycle Friendly Act. However, just like with the other brochure, if you go through this and see something's missing or mistaken, let me know. I'm the one that keeps this brochure and updates it. So, so if you think there's something on there that needs to be adjusted, all you have to do is let me know. Anyway, to continue, some of the highlights from the Bicycle Friendly Act of 2017 is that bicycle traffic signals are defined and enabled as an engineering tool for DelDOT. Requires motorists to change lanes, including when there is a double yellow, when passing bicycles where travel lanes are too narrow for side-by-side sharing, making the 3-foot passing law a requirement only in special cases of wide lanes. The as close as practicable, to the right-hand edge of the roadway has been removed and replaced by far enough to the right as judged safe by the operator to facilitate the movement of such overtaking vehicles unless the bicycle operator determines that other conditions make it unsafe to do so. That sounds like a bunch of attorney talk, but that's what it is. All right. Motorists are forbidden to honk horns at cyclists when passing, except for imminent danger. General clarification of where to ride laws, including specifically permitting two abreast riding within a lane. And then lastly, the Delaware yield allows bicyclists to yield at stop signs when the coast is clear, instead of requiring a complete stop at all stop signs with no exceptions. The only other is that a cyclist does have to stop if coming at a signalized intersection. So if the signal's red, then the bicyclist is required to stop. All right, connection to trails. And if Jeff wants to talk about this one real quick.
Sure thing. So working group members, you're familiar with the recommendation D2, which was to study the feasibility of potential connections for walking and biking for neighborhood streets and trails. That is something that we've discussed on several opportunities. And I know, Bob, you've mentioned an interest in moving this forward. So I think we have some progress that we can share today.
All right, and then as part of the coordination with DOT's projects, non-motorized infrastructure will be installed that will provide a bicycle pedestrian network connecting commercial and residential use to the Georgetown to Lewes Trail. Once the infrastructure is in place, any new development in the area may either be required to extend or connect to the facility through development coordination's plan review process. And then any new development through the local land use agency requires DelDOT approval for these connections. And so just to go over real quick, the two pictures shown, the top left is the interconnection from the Lewes Senior Center to the Georgetown to Lewes Trail, which is directly across from the Tom Draper kiosk. That was coordinated when Lewes Senior Center came to DelDOT for the redevelopment plan. They wanted to connect to the trail. They saw a use for that connection. Since that connection, the Senior Center installed a fix-it station. So if a cyclist has any trouble with their bike, there is a facility there that they can use, which will need to be updated on our bike at the beach maps, because we want to make sure that fix-it stations like this are on the map in case our cyclist does have some trouble. The bottom picture, this is Red Mill Pond development. Years ago, when this project came in for entrance approval, it was required to construct a 10-foot wide shared use path along the roadway, with the intention, if development to the south would continue, that path would be extended, or if the path is ever constructed along the railroad line, there would be a connection to that trail. Obviously, this trail was connected first before any development to the south. So when that trail was completed, that connection was made, and now the residents of Red Mill Pond have a connection to the trail. Which
John, could you just a question I have about what is there any current thinking on getting the Georgetown Trail across Route 9 at Cool Springs Road?
Well, at this time, under our current design, the plan is to take the trail on the north side of 9 down to the intersection of Fred Hudson and Fisher Road, cross at the signalized intersection, go along the Dollar General store, and then connect back into the rail line. If there are any plans to cross Route 9, I hate to say it, the only way I see it, and I'm not an engineer, was to be put up some type of graded, separated overpass of some sort. And I don't know who would have the money to do that, but as part of the Trails and Pathway project, right now we're going along the north side of Route 9, US 9, down to the signalized intersection.
Okay. And IG, you want to jump in quickly?
Yeah, the Sussex Land Trust has partnered with others to do a feasibility study to look at the possible pedestrian bridge crossing from the Cool Spring side of the road to the Hudson Park, which is a land that was purchased by the county in connection with the Sussex Land Trust. So there is a study going on that is outside of DelDOT, just to see if it is something that could add to the safe crossing of getting from one side of Route 9 to the other, because as the commercial development, you got Bay Health coming, you got a Dollar General, you just got approved, there was just approved across from Dollar General, big commercial center, to drive the bikes down to that light, have them press the button and cross over Route 9 with the amount of bikes that we've seen on this trail. It just makes no sense. So we have partnered with interested parties to look at a feasibility study through the Pannoni Association of Milton to try and see if we can get a crossing. And there's nothing else that we're looking. Can it be done? Is the study that we're trying to do.
Okay.
So more to follow on that.
So John, why don't you keep going? We only have a couple more slides, and then I'm going to go to our public comment and make sure we get that in before 8 o'clock.
Okay. And then for this last slide is it's the same facility, same site, just two different views. But basically, when a plan is submitted to development coordination, it is reviewed by multiple sections. During the plan review, if the site is adjacent or near the network, it would be requested to connect to the facility. Since the installation of the Georgetown and Lewes Trail, numerous connections have been made. Developers are realizing having the connection is a benefit to the community. And the majority of the connections are allowed contingent. They are made open to public use. Now, the example here is when this commercial site was submitted, they were aware of the project coming in. They knew it was about a year or two out, but they wanted to get a connection to the site. So they worked through our development coordination section, established a permanent easement for the connection. And then when this section was built, that project made that connection. So the top slide is a view from the trail looking into the meadery site. And then the bottom one is from the meadery to the trail. And then if a community would like to make a connection during the design or construction phase, DelDOT will make the connection to the state right of way, and then the community would need to complete the connection from the state right of way into their site. If you ride along the trail, you do see a lot of private connections along the trail. Any connection made by a homeowner that's not approved by DelDOT can be removed by the state at any time per the state's discretion. But at this time, we're not doing so unless it causes some other damages, unless it's due to safety, drainage, things of that nature. We're not recommending it, but we do have the discretion to remove them at any time we feel that it's necessary.
Hey, John, if I could jump in there, just some of these maybe quote illegal connections. The biggest concern is changing the drainage patterns with these new trail constructions. So, we've gone through an elaborate process to get the drainage patterns established and approved to stormwater management facilities. And when these illegal connections come in and block that drainage, it causes serious concerns. So.
Thanks, Mark. And then to wrap us up for this section, John asked me to talk about a new study that DelDOT is working on, and that is something called the SR1 Low Stress Bikeways Study. This was a suggestion that was made by some bicycling groups to DelDOT, and that was to address some of the safety concerns along Route 1 that John mentioned earlier. Wouldn't it be great if there was a way to provide parallel lower stress routes on either side of Route 1? So that's potentially off the highway in a lot of areas where there's low traffic volume or low speed, so that people could ride comfortably without being either in the shoulder on Route 1 or on the sidewalks along Route 1, crossing all of those driveways. So we're looking at a study to see whether that's feasible, both along both sides of Route 1, as well as at designated crossing locations, almost certainly at traffic signals along Route 1. So the idea is to see whether this is a feasible thing. If so, what segments would need to be built? Would there be residential streets that would accommodate bike traffic? Would there be new short segments of trail that would need to be built? And if so, how would they be prioritized? We're just getting started with this study. There will be a community conversation that we're going to be trying to set up here in the next month or so to speak to folks about their thoughts on this. And as we know more about how the study is proceeding, we'll definitely get the 5 Points Working Group engaged.
And then quick.
Yeah, just to clarify something, I went back and pulled up the bill from 2017 that created the bicycle and the stop sign law. And the last section, the last sentence of the bill says that section 4196AC, which is that section of this act, expires 4 years after the enactment of this act into law, unless otherwise provided by a subsequent act of General Assembly. So it will disappear not this October, but next October. And by the time we get in session next year, try to pass anything to take it away, it'll be gone anyway. So my advice, just let it go and let it expire.
Okay, what I want to do now is I'm going to, just because I want to get this in before 8 o'clock, I want to go to our public comment. And then I'm going to come back if there are working group members who want to continue a discussion for a few minutes. But I'm going to go to Kathleen Baker, who is our only person who requested to make public comment. So Jen, if you could get Ms. Baker off of mute, and then Ms. Baker, you'll have a minute to make any comment.
Ms. Baker, you're unmuted.
Thank you so much. The residents of Sterling Crossing in Sussex County have appreciated being part of the 5 Points Working Group audience for some time. We've appreciated our representatives who are Doug Hudson, IG, and Pete. And thank you all for what you're doing. And we have a couple of observations from today. This is with regard to the bicycling. We have many avid bicyclists here, and we also, of course, observe the visiting bicyclists. And we observe the bicyclists who are all suited up and are, I call, athletic bicyclists. And we appreciate them all. And we think the issue is to make a place for all of them and information for all of them. And therefore, the cited brochures that you mentioned about how to behave as a bicyclist, whether you're an avocational person here for 2 or 3 days, or whether you're a local person like my husband, who is enjoying, several times a week going on the 17-mile loop. Please promote this literature, because this is very important to people, the information, and I thank you very much for that. We observe that you had mentioned the Cool Spring Road cross-section, a signalized intersection, graded and separated overpass. Gosh, wouldn't that be a lovely place for an art project? And IG mentioned the Sussex County Land Trust. What about the notion of making this something beautiful? in addition to something useful. And I would like to see that myself, and we at Sterling Crossing would like to see that in general as we go forward. We have 6 members of our community who have been involved this evening, and the last thing we want to say, and the most important thing we want to say, is that Jennifer Sinelli has done so much for us as a community to enable us to hook into these meetings over time. And she is fantastic. And we say thank you so much. And we're so grateful to be part of this enterprise. Thank you.
Andrew,
now I get a chance to say it. You're muted, Andrew.
Sorry, I was saying that Jen got the hat trick of compliments tonight, and well deserved. Hey, Shantae, if I could bring you in and come off mute, there was a quick question about any update to the potential widening of Plantation Road south of Postal Lane. Are there any updates, if you could provide?
Sure, I'd be glad to provide an update on both phases of the Plantation Road project. We broke it into 2 phases. Phase 1 is from Route 9 to Robinsonville Road, and phase 2 is from Robinsonville Road to Route 24. The first phase is further along in design. We expect to begin construction in 2022 and for it to take about a year or so to complete. The second phase, which is the phase that was asked about, from Robinsonville to Route 24, we are currently evaluating different alternatives in terms of the widening. We had initially looked at keeping it 1 lane in each direction, but adding turn lanes at all of the significant intersections. We were asked by the 5 Points Working Group to evaluate a 4-lane option, which we are doing now. An option that is with and without shoulders, that would have a shared use path and sidewalks on outside of the roadway. And we're also looking at an option that has 2 southbound lanes and 1 northbound lane. We're evaluating all of these. Obviously, the widening of Plantation Road has some significant impacts, especially in the areas where you have residential uses on both sides of the road. So we are evaluating all of it in terms of cost, utility impacts, right-of-way impacts, and we hope to have something to present to the public this fall so that we can select an alternative and move forward. Construction is currently funded in 2025 for phase 2 of the project.
Great. Thank you, Shantae. So I apologize that we ran a little late. Again, we're getting used to how to kind of keep things moving with these virtual meetings, and we certainly had a lot to talk about, having not met for what amounts to 6 months. If there are any final comments, by the way, that was all the comments that we received from the public. Ms. Baker signed up to make a comment, and then there was a question that was asked. So I think we responded to all of the public's comments and provided anyone who wanted to make a comment with that opportunity. If there are any final, I know this was a final slide that John had, which was, how the working group can help DelDOT advance the bicycle program. John, I don't know if you want to just finish that last slide.
Let's see. Sorry for the delay.
It's okay.
Yeah, how the working group can help DelDOT advance the bicycle program, and it's just my opinion, is be involved in the community, such as what I had talked about earlier. Your bicycle friendly communities. Go to the local land use agencies. Go to the town. Promote or advocate for bike safety in their community. Try to get recognized for these achievements. When DelDOT has a project, a DOTS project, and they have these public workshops, we don't know your concerns unless they attend these workshops. So if there's a workshop in your area or just in Sussex County in general, please come out, look at the plans, see if they address your bicycling concerns. If not, make that comment known to the engineer in charge of the project. And we do our best on the review side to make sure these bicycle facilities are installed, but sometimes just hearing it internally, these engineers, you know, they're just like, oh, this is just something they're saying. But when they hear it from the outside that the public has the same concerns, I think they take it more into consideration, in my opinion. We do have some great engineers who do incorporate bicycle facilities, don't get me wrong, but again, the more responses we get to add these facilities, I think the better product that you get. And then lastly, like I said, we have a lot of initiatives that we do through our bicycle safety checkpoints. You can look into the local cycling groups and see what you can do to help. Like I said, we partner with Sussex cyclists to have our bicycle checkpoints. They have numerous volunteers that come out and help. You know, it could be as simple as that. So there, in my opinion, you know, there's some things that can be done. So.
Okay. Well, great. Jeff, why don't we go to the last slide to wrap up? In terms of our next meeting, it's scheduled for Monday, October 26th. We don't have a location yet, and we don't know if we'll be at a location. We'll obviously just have to wait and see. But we know that we can do this online if we have to, and it's worked out, I think, well, but for running late. So I do apologize for that, but I appreciate both the working group and the member of the public sticking with us. We're going to wrap up. I'm not going to open it up to any more questions, but I do thank everyone on behalf of our project team. We always put a lot of work into these, and I think we're happy with what we were able to present, and certainly the discussion and the questions. So as we always say, you know, these meetings only happen 4 times a year, but there's a lot of other days that fill in the gaps. Please stay in touch with us, email us, call Jen. If there are issues, we will have updates in our following 5 points, a monthly update, so you can look for something in August and in September, and then we'll meet again in October. So Jeff or Jen, do you have anything else before we just wrap it up?
Just thank you, everybody, for attending. We appreciate you being here with us.
Yes, thanks so much.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a great night and a great rest of your summer.
Take care.
Stay safe, everybody.